At the start of the year, I did a video looking at the 7 most improved teams of the decade, and clearly that must have whetted some people's appetite for similar content. Frankie Didio's idea to look at the 7 most improved teams this season was the second most liked comment on my video looking at 7 surprisingly low release clauses. So I thank you for sending in your suggestion, Frankie, and today I'm going to give it a go. This 7 will naturally focus on the upper echelons of the game and those performing miracles at the highest level, but feel free to share any more obscure rises this season in the comments, perhaps from your part of the world. The inclusions are based on the team's performances and results last season in comparison to this season, and I'll try to do some super quick honourable mentions between 1st and 2nd place. Here are the 7 most improved / overachieving football teams this season. Schalke. We kick off this 7 in the Bundesliga with a team currently fighting for a Champions League spot. We have become pretty used to seeing Schalke up at the top end of the Bundesliga table over the last 20 years, but they certainly weren't last season. The Royal Blues slumped to a 14th place finish, which was the club's joint worst league finish since winning promotion to the Bundesliga in 1991. 2 different managers, namely Domenico Tedesco and later Hub Stevens, both failed to get results at the Veltins Arena, although no defeats in their last 4 league games did at least ensure that they retained their Bundesliga status. In the summer, Schalke replaced Stevens with former Huddersfield Town boss David Wagner in what was a pretty bold appointment. Breel Mbolo was sold for €10 million, whilst Ozan Kabak was signed for €15 million from relegated Stuttgart. Bennett Rahman was also brought in from Fortuna Dusseldorf, whilst youngster Jonjoe Kenny joined on loan from Everton. The biggest revelations for Schalke, though, have been Suat Serdar, who has been capped 3 times by Germany, Moroccan international Amin Harit, and Salif Saneh at centre-back. The end result is that Schalke have gone from relegation candidates to top 4 candidates, currently occupying 5th place in the Bundesliga table. With just over half the season gone, they have already won more games than they did in the entirety of last season, and have lost just 3 times compared to 17 times last season. That's thanks in no small part to a huge improvement in their defence, which is currently the joint 2nd best in the division. The club are tied on points with Borussia Dortmund in 5th place and 2 ahead of Borussia Mönchengladbach in 6th at the time of this recording. Nantes. Nantes had a 2018-19 season to forget in a campaign which ended with a bottom half finish and will be most vividly remembered for the tragic loss of Emiliano Sala and the legal wranglings between Cardiff and Nantes which followed, leaving a bitter taste in the mouth. On the pitch, Sala was still Nantes' top scorer come the end of the season, and the first 3 months of 2019 saw some incredibly miserable performances, and only a run of 5 consecutive victories in April meant that there were at least no relegation concerns towards the end of the campaign. Club legend Vahid Halohodzic was dismissed in the summer following a single season in charge, and the vastly experienced Christian Gurkov took his place, just as he had with the Algerian national team, in 2014. Nantes made a net profit of more than €20 million in the summer transfer window, which ought to have made Gurkov's job even tougher, but it hasn't panned out that way. Nantes made a sensational start to the season and kept pace with PSG up until a tricky run towards the back end of October. The Nantes side still desperately lacks a goal scorer, and like Schalke, their impressive campaign is built upon a solid defence. Having finished 12th last season, Nantes are currently up in 4th place, ahead of the likes of Lille, Lyon and Monaco, and on course for their best league finish since winning the Ligue title back in 2001. Inter Milan. Some of these improvements come as bigger shocks than others, and I must admit I'm not enormously surprised to see Inter Milan competing with Juventus for the Serie A title this season. That is because I hold Antonio Conte's talents in such high regard though, and not because what he is doing isn't impressive by any means. It has been a pretty rocky decade for Inter Milan ever since their historic treble in 2010 under Jose Mourinho. The club hasn't finished in the top 3 in the Serie A table since 2011, and they finished as low as 7th, 8th and 9th. They finished 4th under Luciano Spalletti last season, 3 points worse off than the previous season, 21 points behind the title winners Juventus, and only 1 point clear of rivals AC Milan in 5th. This season has been a total transformation. Significant investment was made in the summer, most notably with the arrival of Romelu Lukaku, and the Belgian hitman has since bagged 14 goals in 20 league games. Following a season bedding into life in Milan, young Lautaro Martinez has also been brilliant, scoring 10 in 19 himself and ensuring Inter haven't missed Mauro Icardi too much. Diego Godin has strengthened the Nerazzurri's backline, as you would expect, and they currently have the best defence in the division. Inter lost 9 games last season, but after more than half of the current campaign gone, they have lost just once. Unfortunately, that defeat came against title rivals Juventus, who have a 5-point lead over Inter at the time of recording. The fact that Conte's men are already 12 points clear of 5th and 19 ahead of rivals AC Milan is testament to the huge strides they have made this season there. Rennes. We head back to France in 4th place, with a seasonal improvement that is perhaps just marginally more impressive than Nantes'. Rennes finished 4 points ahead of Nantes in 10th place last season in the Ligue table, and they're now 4 points ahead of them in 3rd place this season. Unlike the other 3 clubs in this 7, Rennes didn't have a change of management over the summer, sticking with their young boss, Julien Stéphan. Although Stade de Rennes didn't have a barnstorming league campaign last season, they did win the Coupe de France for just the 3rd time in their history, and the faith they've shown in Stéphan is being repaid in the league this season. Rennes had significant incomings and outgoings over the summer, losing its mailer star to Watford for £27 million, but bringing in the likes of Rafinha from Sporting and Mbaye Niang from Torino. Both players have made immediate impacts, and Rennes have won 11 games at the halfway stage this season, having won just 13 during the entirety of last season. Their defence, which was among the most porous in the top half of the division last season, is now among the best. Rennes have won 8 of their last 10 games and consequently found themselves 3rd in the Ligue table, 5 points behind Marseille in 2nd and 5 points above Lille in 5th. Leicester City. Leicester City took a risk when they sacked Claude Puel last season, but it was a calculated risk, and one which is now paying dividends. The Foxes' 2018-19 campaign, like Nantes', was marred by tragedy following that helicopter crash at the King Power Stadium. On the pitch, the club went on a horrible run at the start of 2019, prompting the Leicester board to act fast and lure Brendan Rodgers back to the Premier League from Celtic. That now looks to have been a really shrewd appointment, and Leicester lost just 2 of their opening 17 games this season, beating Newcastle 5-0 and Southampton 9-0 in a record away win in the top flight of English football. They have been less consistent since the start of the festive period, but still find themselves in a position they could only have dreamt of in the summer. The Foxes have already won as many games this season as they did all last season, they've already scored more goals than they did last season, and they could exceed their points tally from last season in their next 2 games. Summer signing Yuri Tillman and Ayoze Perez have played their part, Chagla Soyuncu has more than filled the void vacated by Harry Maguire, and Jamie Vardy is the Premier League's top scorer despite a couple of injuries. Leicester are 3rd in the Premier League right now, just 3 points behind Man City in 2nd and a whopping 14 points ahead of Manchester United in 5th, virtually guaranteeing that they will play Champions League football next season, an impressive achievement, having finished 9th last season. Lazio. There are a lot of similarities to be drawn between Rennes and Lazio this season. Both teams have ambitious young managers who finished mid-table but won a domestic trophy last season and have now set their sights on league success. In the case of Lazio, they are managed by their former striker Simone Inzaghi, who has been in the top job since 2016. Following 2 5th-place finishes, Lazio slipped to 8th last season, but a 7th Coppa Italia to add to the club's trophy cabinet meant Inzaghi's job was safe. Modest business was done over the summer as Lazio looked to cut their cloth, but results this season have been enormously improved. The club from Rome finished 9th in Serie A last season, 31 points behind the title winners Juventus, 10 points off the top 4, and 21 points above the bottom 3. They are now the form team in Serie A this season, and should they win their game in hand, they would leapfrog Inter Milan into 2nd place and would trail Juventus by only 3 points. Even if they lost their game in hand, Lazio is still 10 points clear of Atalanta in 5th after only 20 games. They've now won a remarkable 9 games on the bounce, a run which has included inflicting Juventus' only defeat of the season, and as things stand, they're unfortunate not to top this 7. The primary factor in Lazio's remarkable rise, if we're honest, has been the unbelievable output of their top scorer Ciro Immobile. The Italian has long been prolific, but he's now scored 23 goals in 19 league games this season, and with a record like that, it's little wonder Lazio are flying high. Honourable mentions. I won't dwell on the honourable mentions for too long, but some of the other clubs who made my shortlist included Freiburg, who finished 13th in the Bundesliga last season, but are currently up in 7th, Real Sociedad, who've gone from a mid-table side to contenders for a Champions League spot, Borussia Mönchengladbach, who are just 1 point behind Bundesliga runners-up Bayern Munich, having finished 5th last season, RB Leipzig, who currently top the Bundesliga table off the back of a 3rd place finish last season, Wolves, who are only 1 place higher than they finished last season, but have been mightily impressive, given they've also had the Europa League to contend with, and lastly Santos, who finishes runners-up in the 2019 Campeonato Brasileiro, having finished way down in 10th place in 2018. Sheffield United. In top spot, it can be difficult to weigh up Sheffield United for a 7 like this. On the one hand, they were excellent last season, winning promotion from the Championship, but on the other, they only narrowly pipped Leeds United to second place and finished behind Norwich City, meaning few expected them to be fighting for a European place in the Premier League this season. In fact, many people wrote off Chris Wilder's team before a ball had even been kicked in the Premier League, given their modest wage budget and lack of major investment in the summer. Wilder is a wily operator though, and he has once again got his team wildly overachieving. If this were a 7 based on overachievement, Sheffield United would comfortably top it, but even based on improvement versus last season, I think they deserve to. The Premier League new boys lost just 4 of their opening 19 games this season, which is an outstanding record for a promoted side. They've had a bit of a come down since Christmas, with just 1 win in 6, but that run has included games against Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester City twice. It has seen them drop from 5th in the Premier League down to 8th, but they're still very much in the mix in terms of Europa League qualification. The Blades are just 1 point behind Manchester United in 5th, Tottenham in 6th, and Wolves in 7th, in addition to being 3 points ahead of Arsenal in 10th. It's one of the finest performances by a newly promoted team in recent times, and due to that, to win with the limited resources at their disposal, I think the Blades deserve to top this 7. That's it for today's 7. Thanks for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and obviously make sure you're subscribed to HITC Sevens. Also, if you're watching on mobile, just try tapping your screen now. Apparently that is sometimes required to bring up our little subscribe button and a couple of other videos that YouTube thinks you might enjoy.